if you don't want to be on camera, that's fine. But it's not going to be shared publicly. It's purely for people who couldn't make it today, and they'll get sent a link. So if everyone's okay with that, we are now live on Channel 4. Please do not swear. So welcome everybody. Do you want to just quickly say hello and where you're from? I'm from North Hertfordshire CVS, the Membership Development and Outreach Officer. Perhaps not in that order, but that's who I am. Alan, help me out here.
I'm Alan Doggett, Secretary of Hitchin Tile House Rotary Club, but I'm also involved in, I'm a trustee of 2 other charities in Hitchin as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Angela.
Hey there, I'm Angela. I'm the chair of Letchworth Garden Shed, which is actually a brand new CIC starting up in Letchworth. We're going to be a library of things. So that's what we're doing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Angela. Hannah. You're on mute, Hannah.
I did press the button. It didn't know that I had. I'm Hannah, and there's Ben here with me as well, and we're both from Climb Hitchin.
Thank you, welcome. Tom?
I'm Tom, I'm from Singing Cactus. We're a local music and theatre events company. Mark is having trouble logging in, apparently. He's telling me at the moment.
Yes.
Who's the other half of Singing Cactus?
Same message from Derek for some strange reason. So I'm going to send the link again. Thank you, Tom. It's good to have you joining us.
No problem.
Yeah. I've been trying to arrange to come and see you guys, haven't I? And I've not managed it yet. So
it's all right. We've been pretty busy.
Deborah.
Hi there, sorry my mouse is a bit sticky and my laptop's a bit slow today, but I'm from Team Hearts Volunteering and I just thought I'd drop in and hear about what's going on.
Fantastic, that's great, thank you. I'm still concerned that these other people haven't got in yet. I'll keep working on that. So Michael, please introduce yourself and kick us off. That would be marvellous.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Really appreciate you making time, especially on a beautiful midsummer's day. My work here is done. Angela knows all about how to do a CIC. I'm handing over to my co-host and I'll bid you good afternoon. My name is Michael. I'm Michael Martin. I am one of the business advisors with Wenta. And I would like again just to pay tribute to Leah's perseverance and resilience while clearly capitalizing on your interest in saying, can we please have someone come along and talk to us about these things? So I'm honored. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. And in terms of my background, I will say a little bit about that and then on to Wenta's background and then into the main event. I'll try to wrap this up for about 3:45, 10 to 4. Do please ask questions as we go. And this is, as you know, being recorded. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be, if you're watching the recording. Also there, you'll get a copy of the slides as well. I do encourage people to take notes as we go because it helps embed really some of the information that I'm going to be sharing. It is an overview. It's not hugely in depth just because of time constraints, but hopefully I'll have hit all of the edited highlights. My background is 25 years as a qualified accredited advisor, 28 years as an advisor in total. What qualifies me, I think, more, and also my colleagues who are also advisors at Wenta, is that we're experienced business people and several of us with social enterprise backgrounds. In my case, founded 5 ventures, 3 of them as an employer, 2 of them sold as going concerns. I'm also the unsalaried founder of a registered mental health charity. So I'd like to think in that period of time, it's as much the experiences of the people I've been humbled and privileged to meet many thousands of people. In fact, I did a count up not so long ago, almost 9,000 one-to-one sessions with founders of various ventures, commercial and charitable and social enterprise. Do please feel free to ask questions. I'll do my best to answer. If I don't know an answer, I'll go ask a grown-up and come back to you at some point as soon as I can. But just a little word about Wenta and my colleagues as well, who are here to help you. Hopefully, Wenta will be celebrating its 40th anniversary next year. Wenta stands for Watford Enterprise Agency and was originally started in Watford. There's a clue. Hertfordshire-based, 4 centres, and it's as a social enterprise itself. Wenta is a not-for-profit. The core business is letting managed workspace. So we have hot desking facilities, office units, and workshops for manual trades. 3 of the buildings Wenta owns as an asset base. So that's Watford, Potters Bar, Enfield. The one I'm talking to you from, although you can't see it, and that may be a good thing or not. I'm talking to you from Stevenage, and we manage this on behalf of Stevenage Borough Council. So as a social enterprise, profits from that are reinvested in a range of support services for the wider business community, not just across Hertfordshire, but across the UK. And that takes the form of in-person workshops on a range of what we call business topics, but it extends to voluntary groups, charities and social enterprises. Things like business planning and finance and bookkeeping, a whole range of marketing workshops, compliances. We have the online equivalent in the form of webinars. And so that is a broader range of topics where we've partnered ourselves with third-party organizations, some specialists with their topics, including some major organizations, including Google. So we offer for people the chance to come along for free webinars on search engine optimization and marketing. One of those webinars is this one, which is about how to set up a community interest company. Adjunct that is an opportunity to talk to us on a one-to-one basis. It's a free service, it stays a free service, and the points that I'll be highlighting here, you're more than welcome to book in with us to explore with your unique circumstances. Some of you obviously are existing for the benefit of your local communities, your service users, your beneficiaries. So here's something hopefully you can guide them on, but also we're inviting you and them to come to us. And we can help, for example, review business plans in advance of grant applications, guide you on cash flow projections, pricing, recruiting people, whole range of things. As I say, hopefully it's our experiences of having done it, it's not just theory, to help you all progress and continue to do the amazing things you're set up to do. So with that in mind, there are options for taking a community initiative forward. And this is what I'm going to be covering this afternoon. Just to say that my style in presentation is to not read from the slides. I'm hopeful you can read it. If you're not clear on anything, though, that I've spoken about, do please ask, and I'd be happy to. But I try to avoid the death by PowerPoint experience. So I'll be talking around what's on the slide. What I'll also do is give you a moment or two to absorb the information. Some of it's detail, some of it isn't, where I'm not talking over what you are reading, which makes it incredibly distracting. So I'm going to shut up now and let you know what I'm going to be talking about. Now, with apologies for a rather loud shirt, I hopefully, having been congratulated on it by Leah, I've got the good housekeeping seal of approval from our Master-in-Chief. Hopefully what you can see there, though, without, if you just want to shut my video bit off, that's absolutely fine. which social enterprise is right for you, because it's not a given that a CIC is the right vehicle for this. And then a few of the details and some of the other considerations, because this kind of thing we don't speak of generally in isolation, for want of a phrase, leg bone connected to the ankle bone. There's always something that means, oh, we've also got to think about this, that, and the other. And Leah and I were talking a little bit about skills just before we started the recording. And that's the next thing I'd like to bring to your attention, because we're often asked a question over the many years that I've been doing this, which is along the lines of, so Michael, this is what we're going to do. Is it a really good idea? And my answer over nearly 3 decades has generally been the same, which is, well, it might be. Go ask your intended audience, establish demand, but are you the person to make it happen? There is a distinction. And so there are certain attributes that we have to give some consideration to, and a grant source is going to be thinking the same thing, which is it might be a solid idea as a concept. And I'd like to ask you to maybe read, some of you are this is your bread and butter, you're probably telling your service users this day in, day out. And yet, sometimes we just need to reflect a little bit, particularly if you're going to be making a change from the type of status you have now to changing to a CIC or possibly something else. So just check that all of these have been addressed. You know, a legal status is one thing, but it doesn't actually mean that there's any more efficiency and effectiveness in what you do. When we evaluate generally, there are 3 things that are important to be mindful of: desirability, feasibility, and viability. When we say desirability, we're talking about not just you wanting it. Is this something the community wants? Is it something the grant funders want? Sometimes it's a challenge to balance the needs of the stakeholders with your own passion and drive and enthusiasm and inspiration, you wanting to make a difference. You know, that's kind of a given. I don't need to labor a point here about attitude. But sometimes there's that tension between needing the money, but then having to do what they want. So desirability is a key thing. Feasibility, what's physically possible, logistically, and then viability, does this actually stack up? Because although it's generally referred to the sector as not-for-profit or non-profit, could there be more of a misnomer? I don't think so. You're supposed to make one, and a big one. It's what you do with it that matters. So this is just backdrop context. Some of you are very experienced in this area, some of you not so much. We can help you with this at Wenta to have these conversations and about the other people that you involve. But to move on to then your options, I'd just like to say a word or two about these before we get stuck into CIC. Now, an unincorporated association, some of you may already be at that stage, which is simply an agreement between people who come together for a reason, a cause, not primarily to make a profit as such, but clearly there needs to be one to reinvest. You don't need to register an unincorporated association. It doesn't cost anything. Individual members, though, are personally responsible for any debts and contractual obligations. It's certainly the simplest thing to be doing. There are grant sources that will support unincorporated associations. Colloquially, I suppose they're known as community groups. If, though, there is profit that's not reinvested, it could be subject to corporation tax. But it's often the case that that isn't the case. But that's an option if the thought of community interest company is a step too far at the moment. Now, a commercial alternative, which is very much focused on community, and you're probably all familiar with a co-op, but a cooperative, we are seeing a resurgence in this in recent years, which is essentially a venture owned and controlled by its members to meet shared needs. So profit distribution is amongst its members. And the members can be customers, so to speak, clientele, as well as its staff. It could be community residents, it could be suppliers. It can all have a say in how it's run and how it operates. There is a cost involved with the cooperative. It's £150 to register. There is the website essentially is uk.coop, and you can find out more about that there. I'll come on to community interest company shortly. And then the option is a charity. So by definition, an important distinction here is that a community interest company is not a charity. You can't call it a charity. It's a social enterprise. There are unregistered charities for sure, but it's a challenge for them to tap into funding. There's a model, a legal entity model for that, which now more so these days is used for CICs rather than unregistered charities, which I'll be coming on to. But a registered charity is registered with the Charity Commission. It's a charitable incorporated organization is what CIO stands for. That's the legal entity. Fundamental difference from a founder standpoint is that a founder cannot be paid, nor can its trustees in a charity. Whereas in a CIC, they can, and I'll be explaining more about that later. It can take an awful lot longer to register a charity than a CIC. CIC could be done in a matter of less than a week, sometimes a couple of days. Registered charity could be months. And I speak as one who, with our trustees, it took 11 months to get registered as a charity back in 2018. It was horrendous. Now, I won't be going into too much detail on that. If you would like to know more about setting up a charity, do please book in with us. I'm going to give the detail out now, but it will be on the recording at the end and the slides on the end. But if you'd like to book a session, our support team can be contacted who manage all the advisors' diaries on info@wenta.co.uk, or you can call us 01438 310020, and I'll give you those details again at the end. So, community interest company. I'll let you read that first.
I've got a few people actually who can't get in, and I don't know if it's because we're recording it.
That's not normally
Not normally
a barrier, no.
Right, I've been sending the link again, but people are getting an error message. So thank goodness we are recording.
Well, if they would like to submit questions, the people who, when you go back to them, Leah, if you just want to ask them if they've got any questions, do please make a note and send them over, and I'll do my best to answer them afterwards.
Brilliant, thank you.
Pleasure. So, bullet point heads up on the key things. I'm going to defer to Angela, who's now the expert. If there's anything here that Angela you would like to comment on, please do. But I'll carry on. There are actually 3 options for a CIC. I've said 2 because my assumption is, forgive me. Oh, we've got North Herts, oh, sorry, wait a minute. Waiting to enter. ACC. So the Assistant Chief Constable. The three options, the extra one that I don't think will be applicable in this case is there is such a thing as a public limited CIC where the shareholding is over a certain level, but it's highly unlikely. So that's why I've left it to these two options. So what's called limited by guarantee. So you can take your cue from that it is a limited company, very similar to the commercial version, but it isn't. So in that, there's no shareholding. All profits should be reinvested. If they're not, they will be subject to corporation tax. And then there is the limited by shareholding, which is even more similar to the commercial version, but where the difference is a maximum of 35% of profit can be then extracted by its shareholders. Now, the reason that this was created, and CICs were established, well, they were first talked about in the mid-1990s, and eventually from the early 2000s, I think 2005 is when the legislation was updated. But they've grown significantly. And the idea was that it was a simpler version for more local community activity than a full-blown charity. And one of the things that had been discussed was about an option to allow for investment from the private sector in a way that the private sector cannot do, or anybody can do really, and expect a return on it in a charity. So it's supposed to be simpler than a charity with a lot of additional benefits, although there are some requirements, which I'm going to come on to next. The most common version is limited by guarantee, and the primary reason for that is because most grant makers would prefer to see that there's no shareholding, but the option is there for you if you wish. Now that's quite a detailed overview. Asset lock is the main distinction between commercial and community. The key thing there is you don't have to nominate to whom or what sort of organization any assets that it holds. So it could be equipment, could be a building, anything else. When you first set it up, you can update that information later, but on the application form, there is a question about nomination. You can leave it blank, and I'm going to come on to the guide and the forms in a moment. So the idea is it's protectionism for the community. This is an overview. Step-by-step guides are available on gov.uk, and the CIC regulator is the particular department with whom you would be registering. And you can see there's a screenshot here from gov.uk. There's the link which you'll get. There's a video link I've included, which is their video on the advantages and the process for setting up a CIC. Now, as I said right at the start, it's not for everybody, but it can be the most appropriate way to facilitate what you wish to facilitate. So on the assumption for the moment that you've decided this is, with the people who are involved, what you'd like to be doing, what I'm going to now show you is the step-by-step. And I'll just briefly mention the forms so you know what they mean, what they're for. So the CIC 36 form, and there's a screenshot of that coming up on the next slide, is where you're going to be setting out your case for why the CIC should be registered, what the CIC will do, who it's supposed to benefit, and who's involved. Now, you may have heard in your experience of the word, well, the phrase articles of association. You may have also heard of the phrase, or the word rather, constitution. So that's because this mirrors a limited company, that's the articles of association. Now, there's a third document that will be created when you do this. If you look at the screenshot at the bottom of that page, it says memorandum of association is created when providing information during the online process is the next word. Now, to explain what they are, a memorandum of association is an external facing document that lets the world know, because there is a level of transparency here, who's involved, what's it called, when was it incorporated, when's its filing date. So information you have to get back to Companies House and potentially HMRC, Majesty's Revenue and Customs. That's the memorandum. It's actually a very simple document. The articles is internal, and it's about the governance of the CIC. So it covers things like how often you're going to hold meetings, what the protocol is for meetings. So for example, are you allowing them to be held through Zoom or video conferencing rather than face-to-face? What will happen if a member or a director resigns? What's the process for appointing a new one? What if somebody dies? Particularly in the shareholding version, to whom will the shares pass? Family, or does somebody else have an option to buy them? Those sorts of things. So it's all about the governance. Now, they issue template documents. You can go with the template, but we would advise that you maybe seek legal advice about adapting them for your purposes. Now, all of this costs £27, and it's generally approved in a couple of days. You can do it by post if you prefer. That takes a bit longer. It could take up to 15 working days. And then the filing on that is annually, which costs £15. And you're filing with both Companies House and the CIC regulator. Then you can see there the page for all of this information. So if you go back to that link in the previous slide, that will get you to where you need to be. Now, here's an example of a completed version of a successful application. So this is about a village shop with a strong community focus, providing services to local residents and holidaymakers. Now, in theory, you could argue, well, where's the difference for that and a commercial village shop? But you then see how the activity will benefit the community. That is a much stronger case for why it should be a CIC. Now, that you have to pass this statement is so important, because this is what they're going to base the decision on as to whether they're going to register it or not. And I've put in the slide there about consider what your objectives are. Now, these are similar to what they would be if you were forming a charity. But if you give an example of, let's say you're setting this up because, or you're already, let's say you're transferring from your existing entity into a CIC, then you've already got your objectives. You already know what they are, which is, as examples, relief of hardship or poverty, assisting employability, provision for the vulnerable. There are lots of other things that you are clearly chartered for that will probably suffice. If you're in any doubt, book a session with us, send us over your draft document that you intend to submit. We'd be happy to give you some feedback on that, critique, maybe help you just tweak it a little bit, just to make sure that you've got the best chance of it being accepted. Now, if they turn you down, it's not the end of the world. You can reapply, there are guidance steps on that. But hopefully, if you get it right first time, fantastic. So this is then the final part of the form. It's actually relatively simple. If you think about government forms generally, this isn't too onerous. They've tried to make it as straightforward as possible. One person can do this. We do get a lot of inquiries from clients who say, well, am I allowed to do it just for myself? Yes. Grant makers, though, generally prefer there to be at least two for governance purposes. They can be related, so families could do it. And as I said, a founder can be paid. Because it's tantamount to a limited company, it would be under PAYE, the same as any conventional employment situation. Now, we do a range of webinars on these kinds of things, PAYE and limited status generally. Again, book a session with us, happy to go through it with you. There's then certain dates in the year that matter. You're probably familiar with these through your other activities, in that the government's financial year is 6th of April to the 5th of April each year. Whenever the CIC is registered, there's then a period of time, same as a limited company, that you have until you need to file that information. There's also the annual statement, £13 is what it is for a commercial company. It's 15 for a CIC. So just be mindful of those obligations. You'll see all of this information on gov.uk. And that pretty much is it on the CIC itself. But a lot of the same things that apply to any type of venture will also apply. So I've just put together a few things here as reminders. Only two types of insurance are law, statutory. If you're not employing anybody, you don't need employer's liability, but you will need to upgrade your motor insurance cover personally, because technically there's a change in your occupational status. If you may be doing something else as well as this, but if you are, then this would be categorized as a second occupation. So you could call yourself a director, as a director of a CIC, but you'd need to upgrade that cover. It shouldn't make much difference to your premiums. The others are not a legal requirement, they're not statutory, but they're recommended. And there's a list there. I won't go into too much on those, but again, book in, glad to have a chat. What we usually advise is, if you join as an organization some sort of professional association for the sector, maybe a trade body, they've probably done a deal with an insurance broker or an underwriter for the benefit of its membership. And so instead of you using a search engine to find an insurer, I'm sure you could, you'd probably find way better terms by being a member of a trade association of some kind, a sector body. And plus you've got the extra credibility angle there and an extra form of source of support for best practice purposes. We find that a lot with clients when they do that. We've done it. As an example, with our charity, we were originally quoted 5,000. I mean, I knew it would be better if we went through some sort of association, but I just did it as a check to make sure I wasn't still imagining it. And we were quoted £5,000 for insurance, and through a trade association, we got it down to £1,500. And rather in our pocket than theirs, for the benefit of the beneficiaries. So have a little look at that. Also, maybe a law firm, that some of them have done a deal with a solicitor's practice for the benefit of its membership. Well worth doing. So there's some links there to sources. Just to pick out a couple, trust.org and Q Legal are pro bono. That means free. I hope you heard that once more with feeling. Free legal advice for social enterprises, okay, and charities. So make a note of those two, because they usually charge by the consonant, never mind, or the vowel, never mind the hour. So have a look at those. BBFA is Better Business for All website. Trading Standards is usually a county council thing. You guys are all in Hertfordshire, so that's Hertfordshire County Council. Well worth having a chat with them before you get started. What you don't want is them coming to talk to you afterwards. That's not such a pleasant conversation. Talk to them first, just to make sure you're compliant in whatever it is you're doing. If you are offering chargeable services or potentially products, merchandising to help with fundraising. ICO is the Information Commissioner's Office. That's for GDPR data protection purposes. Most of you will need to be registered because you're handling service user beneficiary data, and there may be other people who have access to that data in the support that you provide. That's a GDPR thing. £35 a year by direct debit gets you annual registration. It's £40 actually is the fee, but they only charge that if you're paying a different way. They knock a £5 off if it's direct debit. Really good site to go and have a look at, and they'll talk you through all the bits and pieces. If you're doing fundraising in particular, or marketing emails, let's say, to subscribers or donors, you have to give them the right to opt out on each and every subsequent occasion. And so that's the unsubscribe process. You probably get emails all day long with these things. They all should have unsubscribe in it. Now it's your turn. Okay. Well, welcome to the marketing side of it. Just a quick word about the accounting for all of it. You have to keep records for a minimum of 6 years. HMRC is encouraging all people across commercial and charitable social enterprise to move to digital filing from the accounts system. It's called Making Tax Digital. It was supposed to be in next year. It's now 2024, but it'd be a good idea to start now. Here's a list. We're not recommending any, but here's a list you could probably try. You may already have a bookkeeping system and you're quite happy with it, and that's great. Liberty Accounts is for both commercial and charitable, but it's really cost effective and really good. We use it in our charity, and it's only £12 a month, which is pretty cool. And you get, if you refer other organizations to use it, they knock a quid off for everyone that you refer. So theoretically, you could get it for free. Xero, probably taken over as the more popular one now from Sage, which was the most popular one at one time. QuickBooks is another well-known one. They help offer trial periods. Give them a go, have a play, see what you like. My recommendation would be that if you're using a bookkeeper or an accountant that has a software program, try to use the same one they use, because firstly, there's less of a faff. Secondly, they'll probably make it more expensive if you use one they don't. So try to use the one that they use. But we have a webinar on finance and bookkeeping. We go through this in a lot more detail. We record them all. Don't worry if you can't make a live date. just register anyway. We'll send you a recording. Now, this isn't the place to be getting into huge detail on marketing, but just to flag a few things, we have probably, I think, 10 or 11 different marketing related webinars. Advertising, marketing, promotion and selling are related, interrelated, but they're not the same thing. They're different disciplines. There's a reason why we do that many of them, because it's a huge topic. And so we can certainly talk to you on a one-to-one basis about this, but it is important to be identifying who your target. There's a lot of people competing for the same grants. There's a lot of organizations out there that you might actually be best partnering up with, because the funding landscape has changed so much in recent years, particularly for early stage CICs and early stage charities. They like to see cluster bids. And we generally tend to see this as a collaborative space. It's not a competitive space as such. You guys are doing amazing things, and the networking that you're encouraged to do through North Arts CBS, fabulous stuff. And more of the same, please, because it will help you get that more access to that funding. But articulating your core messaging is so important, and we can help you with that. Now, I'm sure most of you will have one eye on Show Me the Money. I hear you. We can relate. There are options with CIC for more grants than you probably would get as a commercial venture. Not as many as a charity can, but it's still a way forward without the hassle of charity. The 3 Fs, this is a rather uncharitable one, I have to say. It comes from the accounting and banking sector, and it stands for friends, family, and fools. I'm not entirely convinced of the karmic merit of taking money from fools or calling somebody a fool, but hey ho. So banks and other debt financiers are an option. Loan financing, revenue-based models are there for CICs. High net worth individuals is what HNWI stands for. Their possibilities. Business angels, they tend not to get out of bed for less than sort of 25, 50,000 and go up to about $1 million mark. And then there's venture capital, which is kind of way above that. Not really appropriate for this kind of space. Crowdfunding usually works best if you've got a really good social following, usually good to have a fairy godmother or fairy godfather in the wings somewhere to top it up in case you miss your target, because you don't want to do that, because then it's harder to raise money elsewhere. It could be a combination of those things. We have experience as advisors of doing all of these things. I've helped raise significant sums of money into the millions for various ventures, as well as my own. So again, plug, hi, come and say hi. Okay, we're here to help. So here's some sources. I hope you're already familiar with these. If you're not, good, because guess what? These are really good places to go get money. Now, starting from left to right, Charity Excellence Framework, brilliant site. Do you know the best thing about it? It's free. The others aren't. It's run by a very eccentric Scotsman, Ian McClintock, who I have had the pleasure of dealing with. And I have Scottish heritage, so that's all right then, I can take the mickey. But it's a great portal that gives you governance tools, lots of really good resources. There's a self-audit process to give yourself a certificate of excellence to evidence, with a gold star and a tick to funders. Really good thing. But you've got access to thousands and thousands of grant-making trust foundations. Not all of them you will be eligible for, but they send you an email every week, and it's brilliant. Totally recommend it. It's fantastic. My Funding Central, similar, but there's a charge to that. From recollection, I think it's about £50 for the year. Same kind of thing. Grants Online, the price is going up here as we go to the right hand side, is £200 for the year, give or take, per user. And then Directory of Social Change, you may be familiar with, it is the biggest of them all. They have a hard copy book. I mean, some of you who are even far younger than I can probably remember the hard copy book that you can borrow at the library, and people you have to go sit in the library to read it. Well thumbed, that one. But they have the online equivalent. So the book is about 130 quid each year, and the online equivalent I think is about £99 a month, which sounds horrendous, but all of the major charities use that, and there's a reason. Ian is booked to speak at a Learn Together event on the 19th of September. You have to be there. Okay, clear your diaries. I don't care. Your only excuse is a death certificate. You have to listen to Ian. Right. So there's also government grants from time to time. There's a link there. So keep a copy of this recording. Keep a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. Don't lose this one. And almost, but not quite finally, you've got some homework. I've done the heavy lifting here. It's your turn. So here's things you can be doing to progress from this point. Happy to give you a steer on things like a donor management system, maybe a customer relationship management system or client relationship. There's all kinds of things out there. There's hundreds of them. I can give you a steer on those sorts of things. You won't solve all of this in 5 minutes, but it would be good to set a roadmap out. If you can get help from volunteers, fab. I'm going to suggest to you actually, I don't know if there's a volunteer thing I think CVS is linked with, North Hart CVS. Make good use of that because it's really good. There's another one called Reach Volunteering, brilliant site. We saw some amazing people through that. I don't know why there's a difference, but have a look at Reach Volunteering, superb. Okay. Oh, look what you've covered. Well done, you guys. You gave up the sun for this. I'm so impressed. Well, those of you stuck in offices, not so much, but thank you. I'm going to give you, just on the last slide, some links to the Wenta website, but also the CIC regulator as a reminder. And there's the phone number and the link to give us a call. And we look forward to renewing acquaintance. Thanks very much. I've been Michael Martin for most of this afternoon in a very loud shirt. I'll leave you in peace. Thanks, Leah. Thanks to each one and all. I wish you every success with all you're doing. It's amazing. It's so heartening to see what you guys are doing. Maybe we will chat soon. Thanks, Leah.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Welcome.
We will send you the recording of this afterwards. If anyone doesn't have any questions now, I'm sure Michael will be happy. Well, no, he's got to go. He's got to go. But we can note down questions.
Yeah, please do.
We can send them to Michael another time. I'd be happy to collate them if that suits, if people do want to carry on having a bit of a chat now. So I shall leave that up to you.
Okay. I'll take a generous offer. It's 5:02. I've got 3 minutes. If anybody particularly wants to ask a question, fire away. Go for it.
Can you stop the screen share, please? So we can
yes. If I stop that there.
There we go. That's it. Fantastic. Alan.
Michael, thank you very much. I raised this question a few years ago within Rotary, and one of the Rotary Club in another area decided to go the CIC route, and the reason they gave was because that one of their events was a big car show, which raised vast amounts of money, And the reason they went CIC was they felt they were protected as individuals by having this arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never really totally understood it. I think I do more now to you, but I'm not sure that it's for our Rotary Club, but I still need to look at it.
Sure.
But yeah, but for them, they said that's why they went down that route. So the Rotary Club, it was in Harpenden, formed the CIC because of this reason, and they felt it protected their members.
So really good point, well made, thank you, sir. To clarify the context for limited liability, what that means is limited to the value of the shareholding in ordinary circumstances. Now, the default shareholding these days is £100, and therefore theoretically individuals can walk away if there's a problem, and the maximum liability would be £100 in those instances. Now, it doesn't have to be £100. They just set it as the default. It could be, it used to be actually £10 for a charity and a CIC. You can reduce it to that if you wish. But here's the thing. Limited liability is not guaranteed. It's a bit of a myth. And the reason for that is because there are 4 acts of parliament that govern the running of a limited company in whatever form. And in fact, there are others. But the 4 main ones are the Companies Act, Company Directors Disqualifications Act, there's the Finance Act, and there is the Enterprise Act. Now, I think, to the best of my knowledge, in almost 30 years of this stuff, the only person who's ever read the Companies Act is the person who wrote it. And so I will quote, though, from that, a couple of phrases, one of which is, directors have a responsibility to discharge their duties with reasonable skill and due diligence. They must, if there was a problem, they should have known and done something about it, and they must always act in the best interests of the company, not the individual. Now, that's fairly vague. Now, in my experience, and I don't speak as either a solicitor or a barrister, but in my view, all law is deliberately vague because that's why we pay the judiciary to interpret it for us. It's a matter of interpretation. In other words, how good's your barrister? So there is no guarantee. Yes, it's true in most circumstances. If there was kind of a no-fault situation where the CIC stopped trading and they closed it before it became insolvent, no harm, no foul. If, though, there was malpractice of some kind, deliberate or unwitting, limited liability would be stripped. So I hear what you're saying with regard to those with the car show, and I understand the rationale, but just to say that in ordinary circumstances, while it shouldn't ever be an issue, they've got just as much liability as you would have as a Rotary Club as individual members.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. All right, so thanks, folks. I got to go. You carry on and play. Have a nice rest of afternoon. Leah, thanks so much again for the opportunity. Look forward to hearing from each of you and perhaps crossing paths in person at some point.
Thank you, Michael. It's brilliant. See you again.
Bye all.
I've just put into the chat the Wenta website before you rush off, because they are free. Okay, their services are free. So if you want to chat, have another one-to-one with one of their advisors, it's so easy to set it up. I mean, when you go on the website, a little chat box even pops up saying, hi, how can I help you today? And yeah, so they're there to support any Hertfordshire-based business, whether that's social enterprise or private business or whatever, but it's all free. And that, as you said, there's loads of other training courses that you can attend, and you can sign up for it. And if you can't go, you'll get the recording afterwards, because they're mostly on Zoom. I think they are doing some in-person ones in Stevenage and Watford are their main bases, but check out the website and I'll send that out again, obviously. But unless anyone else really wants to say anything now, and I will send my apologies to those people who couldn't get in, which is such a shame. Yes, but they'll get sent the recording as well. So I hope it's been useful, and hopefully see you on the next one. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.